Welcome back to Insights. I'm joined by ACC Professor of Political Science, Tim Kuhnlein. And Tim, throughout all of this that we've been seeing in politics, nationally speaking, a lot of more people are paying attention to it. We have more people watching this show. A lot of more people are discussing it. It's kind of you've called it a renaissance, really, that we've been seeing in people interested in politics.
Yeah, there's been some really good commentary in some of the more serious media about the fact that the flip side of all this craziness is that we are seeing a resurgence in intelligent and sophisticated discussion like we haven't seen in a long time. People are engaging in civics discourse. And you know, when you understand the hysteria around all this, however you want to qualify it, it's hysteria. I mean, when the President of the United States is issuing the equivalent of 4 false, misleading statements a day in the first month of his presidency, creating all sorts of reverberations, both domestic and foreign, across partisan lines. And you understand that only 23% of 8th graders scored above or at proficiency in civics, and 2/3 of adults cannot name all 3 branches of the federal government. That could drag you down, right? Especially as a civics teacher. But on the flip side of this, we are seeing really the most vibrant public discourse that I've seen in my lifetime. You know, it's almost like we're experiencing a rebirth of civics. People, even my students, I feel it. I palpably feel the curiosity compared to what I've experienced in the last 16 years.
Yeah, so this year alone, you've seen a difference within your students during lecture.
Yeah, there's a genuine concern and interest of sorting through the BS and understanding the way our system is intended to work. There's a surprise at the way it was intended versus how it's been working, and a realization that there's a lot that's kind of gone amok, and we better get it in check for our own prosperity. But you know, this isn't the first time we've gone through something like this. I mean, when you look back to the Gilded Age of 100 years ago, getting past all the minutiae of what that was all about, you know, it was during these very difficult times when you almost feel like you're going through sort of a time warp or some sort of alternative universe that, you know, and the time seemed challenging and heavy. We see the rise of the arts, the Harlem Renaissance, the literature, the investigative journalism, the muckrakers, and so forth. I mean, I would imagine what it was like 100 years ago based on what I'm experiencing now. And that, regardless of your politics and where you want the trajectory to go, so much of this is rhetoric and entertainment to maybe steal the thunder so that certain agendas can get accomplished. But put all that aside, it is the light side of this, the bright side of this, and it's kind of refreshing. And when I think about how the presidential power is being questioned and checked properly by Congress right now, and the judiciary, and then I think about the nature of this rebirth of civics, it gives me reassurance that we'll get through all of this turmoil, because it's not just the political turmoil, it's the economic turmoil of people trying to figure out how they're going to survive as middle-class Americans.
And so, like you said, this is very important for people, or citizens rather, to be this invested into the government.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we turn a blind eye and we become comfortable, there's no question, as a republic, we tend towards oligopolic tendencies, where those who own everything end up controlling everything. And this is sort of a dialectic, a thesis, antithesis, synthesis. We need that tension. It's the concept that our founders bought into with checks and balances and introduced, really, in practical form as opposed to theoretical form. And we're seeing that not only in government, but in the way our society responds to government and the way we in society respond to one another with our different ideological perspectives on where this all goes. Ultimately, when you look at the dialectic of the conservative liberal paradigm that we've created in this country, look, we're all liberals, right? In the truest sense. Liberal means, the root word is liberty. I hope conservatives in this country are truly liberals. Otherwise, we're talking about a very different beast. If they're fascists, anti-liberal, we've got some serious problems. But if we're all having a common conversation around the expansion of liberty and the benefit of preserving liberty in our economic activities, our political activities, our civil rights, and so forth, then this is a little bit of a different discourse. And if you look back through history, as much as conservatives want to try to slow things down or maybe reverse things or stop things, invariably liberty prevails, just like truth. It may take time. There's no question the conservative movement now wants to roll us back. They want to reverse the Great Society, the New Deal, in many respects, not all. How we do that is very important. And true conservatives understand that you can't have shockwave and expect stability and progression in whatever direction. So this is very reassuring in many respects, that despite all the banter, if we can keep our heads on and people are paying more attention and truly searching for the truth, I have to trust that it will prevail.
Definitely, it's good to have informative voters for the next election cycle in a couple of years. And also, I think it's refreshing. You said it's also kind of in uplifting to have people discussing whether they agree or not, discussing these things that are happening.
Yeah, because that's often not happening. We're getting more and more isolated in our closed communities, looking to news sources that only feed our preferences. We've all heard and experienced the family feuds and whatnot, but I think we're moving a little bit past that and realizing that we have to respect our differences, and still we've got to figure these things out. For a country that is faced with the kinds of challenges we are, both domestic, foreign, and financially with our national debt, we're not in a position to coast. There are some serious issues of reckoning, and the only way we're going to deal with these effectively is if we challenge one another in an intelligent, educated way, and civics is what it's all about.
And when you see students in your civics class, what are the things they are concerned about?
I think for most, it's coming to a realization that things are working differently than they were intended to. And so getting a grasp of the way our founders intended the system to work versus how we've allowed it to work. For example, the Electoral College, it's not a deliberative body. It's been manipulated as a mathematical formula by partisan interests. And it's not materializing the way that our founders ultimately intended. And that's just one example. I think the other thing that I'm finding students are increasingly more curious of is the history. Not only how things were intended to work versus how they're working, the evolution of this, but looking back to the historical foundations and gaining a deeper appreciation for history.
All right, well, it's some fascinating stuff. Unfortunately, we're all out of time. So, Tim, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. If you want to watch more Insights, join us at the same time, same place next week.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.